Hello everyone, this is Sonic Fiend, also known as the admin behind the Grimoire Index Twitter account for all of your BlazBlue fun fact needs. And on the topic of BlazBlue, I thought it would be a little fun if we went over and had a little bit of a pre-release discussion about the PvP for BlazBlue Alternative Dark War, which is the latest and greatest gacha from Arc System Works. At the time of this recording, it is currently only available on Japanese devices, so you'll have to do a little bit of a rigmarole to get it working on your American/European devices. I have two accounts. One, my main is on my phone. What you're seeing now is like my throwaway/dummy account. And I don't have much in the way of premium characters here, though I do seem to luck out in getting a bunch of like high quality grimoires, which are the if you play Fate Grand Order, and I really need to get back to recording that for this channel, these are likely equivalent to the craft essences. They're equipable items that will grant you various stats and effects depending on, ones that suit your needs. And I do have a lot of these for this account for some reason. I keep some dupes mostly for the sake of like having similar builds on different characters for, testing purposes. So I thought it would be best to go over this in the tried and true tradition of making a tier list. So I will just back out of this for one moment. Bring this back down here. And here we are. So, if you notice, this is the playable cast of BBDW at the time of this recording. S and Raquel Alucard were just added from the Memories Restoration event for X-Blaze. And if you see this right here, Spirit Terami is a playable character, but he is currently not accessible in that it's kind of weird. He is playable. You can summon him, but he comes only from the friend point system, which if you play Grand Order, there's a similar thing there where a character I think is like 1-star rarity, and he can only be summoned there. It's the same thing for Terami here. He has like a less than 1% chance rate of appearing. Like I'm in the Discord for the BlazBlue wiki, which I'm going to be referring to a lot for most of this information. But suffice it to say, like there are hundreds of us in that server, and I think only one of us has actually pulled Terami. So for the purposes of this video, we're just gonna give him his own tier, the asshole tier, because that's what he is, if we're being real. If you're familiar with BlazBlue at all, like this guy right here is kind of like the reason most of the bad stuff happens the way it does. The other being Relius, who is here, but in his Blood Edge experience form. More on him later. So this video is going to be structured a little more off the cuff. Like usually for these analysis type things, I would like to plot out something, but I thought it'd just be a little easier, a little more fun to just, give my raw thoughts as they come to me. And I will preface this by saying, again, this is for a mode that's not released yet, so things are very subject to change. This is just my understanding of the meta so far. The meta that's non-existent, but what I think will come to pass as things go on, if that makes sense. And a lot of what I talk about probably won't make much sense if you haven't started playing the game, which I apologize in advance for that, but if you click this video, the chances are you probably do play it, or at least follow people who do and are passingly familiar with it. So with that said, let's get into it. So I think we're going to start strong. We're going to go right off the bat. We're going to go for the top 3, or who I think are the top 3. So the first of the top 3, if not top 1, I think is going to be Jin Kisaragi. To put it a certain way, excuse me, in the pre-release streams leading up to the launch of Dark War, the producer and BlazBlue series creator Toshimichi Mori went on record saying that for new players there is a unlimited infinite reroll pull after like the game starts up proper, and you are guaranteed one of two SSR characters, which are like the highest rarity at 5 stars, or the 5-star equivalent, if that makes sense. So you're guaranteed either Jin or this character here, Zwei from X-Blaze. Mori went on record saying that that Jin is the better pick. And as far as the cast list goes, I 100% agree. The reason for that being, I'm just gonna pull up the pages here. So this here's the element chart. If you played like most gacha RPG type games, you're probably familiar with like the basic element charts. Here it's the same like fire, wind, earth, water, light, and dark in that order from top left to right here. Usually light and dark counteract each other and are kind of neutral with the other elements. Not in this game. So this is the matchup chart. So from top down, dark actually beats earth and water, and light beats fire and wind. And then the other, like the 4 like central elements kind of play off each other like the way you'd expect them to. So fire beats wind and dark. Wind beats earth and dark. Earth beats water and light. And water beats fire and light. So the reason why I think Jin is especially so strong right now is because, let me just pull up this page first for reference. So this is Jin. He's a base rarity SS. That's the highest, that's the highest rarity you can pull from, but there are higher rarities you get from pulling duplicates of the character to merge them, or going through what are called, I think, fragments, which you can buy / grind for in other modes, but that's a bit of a grind, admittedly, and that's kind of how these games go for the long term. Like, you have to kind of grind your way to getting your favorites really good. So even here, it even says tutorial gacha. That's where you can get them from, and it is recommended. So, character groups, he's part of the Duodecim. He's an NOL officer, a major. He has a Noxic Taurus. He is an older brother to Saya from his realm. He wields the power of order and is Ragna's younger brother. So this is his stat line. These are his commands, the frequency, and the amount of hits that each attack does. And, okay, so here's where what are called revolvers, which are kind of like the cards you get. Again, I'm probably gonna be comparing this to Grand Order a lot. It is the most direct. I can speak words, I swear. Read you that sentence. It is the most direct comparison to make, and Mori himself plays Grand Order and went on record saying that if he could add additional fates to like BB Tag, that the Fate series would be a go-to. Whether or not that actually happens, we'll have to see. BB Tag Season 3? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Who knows? Arc is busy with other fighting games, but that's fine. Anyway. So, Jin's additional effects. So, from the special cards, he gets the Ice Blade. Inflicts defense down 30%, which is good. His distortion is Toga Hyojin, which, if you've played BlazBlue, even from the very beginning, you know what Toga's about. Toga is the reason why Jin in BB Tag Season 1 was a top 5 character. Because you popped Resonance, right? You just threw out Toga after Toga and just ate up so much chip damage, and then all you had to do was like poke you and you won. So Toga is an AoE, which means it hits all enemies on the opposing side, and it has a chance to freeze them. Arctic Dungeon, much the same, though I believe it's just like a higher chance of freezing. You have to. So his Astral Heat, he doesn't come with his Astral Heat. No character does except for I don't know how to pronounce her name. Shell, who is kind of like the Mash Kyrie Light of this game. She comes with a Distortion and an Astral Heat at the lowest rarity, but she's kind of like the special central character, so she gets all that stuff for free anyway. So for Astral Heats, for every character, you have to get them to at least SS plus rarity, which for characters that start at SS like Jin, all that means is you have to either grind out his fragments or just pull a second version, or excuse me, a second Jin Kisaragi unit to merge into the first. So for the purposes of this tier list, right? How far have we gone? Wow, we're already 10 minutes in. I'm still only on the first character, Jesus. For the purposes of this tier list, we're going to go under the assumption that everyone is magically a whale or something and they have every skill available to them, right? So, assuming he has his Astral, he has 2 chances to freeze you. And that's with his moves alone. So here come his skills. Frost End, he gains attack up by 12% for 3 turns, which is fine, no problem there. Adds to his damage output, which is already high as is. And then his second skill is Frost Edge, which applies 30% defense down and has what looks to be, at least at first use, a 44% chance of freezing. Now, I don't know if this resets. Like, say if you miss the first freeze, the second attempt would be 48, 52, and so on. I don't know if this resets after a successful freeze. Like, say you get it at 52, but it goes back down to 44. I'm not sure how that works, but the way this game runs, chances are you're not going to be spending more than 7 turns in any battle, so we'll see how that plays out when we get to it. Point being, he has a skill that further inflicts defense down, and which can stack, which with his already good special. It's multiplicative, not additive. I know I did not pronounce that word right, but anyway. Basically means that this and... So, his Shokin and Frost Edge, I don't think they add up to 60%. Instead, it's going to be more like... I can't really do the math, the arithmetic off the top of my head right now, but it's really closer to like 44% together when stacked, if I have my math right. Either way, it's just more means of lowering the enemy's defenses, which is very, very strong. And then his traits. Traits are things that are... They're not always exclusive, but they are tailor-made to fit each character's kit, so to speak. So Jin's traits are Ice Blade, which... Ice Blade makes his revolver go up by 15%, which is what builds the overdrive, so that's good. Hero's Pride, overdrive generation up by 1, which, if I pull this up really quickly... where is it? Increase overdrive generation per hit. Okay, so it increases the percentage that the overdrive gauge is filled. Again, that fits perfectly. When he has an ally on both sides of him, his heat goes up by 20%. This is both a good and a bad thing, because heat for like distortions is always appreciated. But I think the caveat is, if you want to max out Jin's like potential and damage and all that good stuff, if you want this to be effective, you have to build teams around Jin in a very, very specific way. Which basically means if Jin is on your squad, and he is for a lot of people, you have to make him the center frontline unit, and nothing else will work. So you basically need 3 frontline units and 1 backline unit. So that's good. That's both a good and a bad thing, depending on what you want. So the rest of his traits: Glistening Glistening Flash. Goodness gracious, I cannot speak today. Pardon me. This is why this is off the cuff. I'm allowed to make these mistakes. Otherwise, I'd never get this stuff done in a timely fashion. At least with my current work schedule. So when he attacks an opponent with the Older Brother, Chaos, or Black Beast traits, his attack goes up by 50%, all of which coincidentally fit Ragnar the Blood Edge. I wonder why. Though, oh man, I can't wait for when Ragnar gets in this game. But anyway, lastly, Ice Armor. It reduces damage from fire enemies by 50%, or not 50, 5%. 50 would be insane. And lastly, he has freeze immunity at the SS+++ rank, which that's not gonna be hard at all. But I'll just for the purposes of this video, I'll just say I'll count SS++ as SS3, just to make things easier. So at SS3, Super Saiyan Jin 3, he gets the Ice Wall, which makes him immune to being frozen. So that's his skill list. How far are we in right now? Alright, 15, 16 minutes. Goodness gracious. So, all that said, the reason why I think Jin is top 3, at least with this current roster, there are currently no SS base rarity dark units. Besides Terami. Terami's dark, but we're not going to include him because realistically no one has him, right? You know what I mean? So really, what this means is the only dark characters are Ripper from X-Blaze, Arakune, and Saya Terami from Blood Edge Experience. And of these 3 dark units, I think only Saya is good, like, in the long run. Arakune's okay for, like, filling in spots. Actually, I could probably rate these right now. I'll talk about Saya later, because I have much to say about her. My dummy account, she basically carries my dummy account. Not my main, I don't have her on my main, but for the account I showed earlier at the beginning of this video, you probably saw her, like, SS++. She carries me so goddamn hard. But, I can just leave these here. Arakune is alright. I'll probably put him as B tier just because Arakune himself, like, he's decent. He doesn't have much to him. Like, we can go to his page now. I started at top 3, but now I'm going all over the place. But there's only 3 dark characters, so I can just get these out of the way and then go back to the top 3 and focus on them. So, Arakune. Let's see. Stats. So he starts at AI, which is the lowest rarity, which is like bronze. So I'm almost certain no one has Arakune at SS+, or even SS at all, really. But we can just go over his kit anyway. So Y2 dash, chance to inflict poison, which is fine. F inverse is distortion, more poison. N to infinity, more poison. Gee, I wonder if he's good at poisoning things. Besides that, his skills, defense down to a single target. Event A brand opening, okay. Chance to inflict poison for all enemies, okay. So, at 60%, that's actually pretty decent, but that's SS2 rarity, and God, who's going to get him that far? Traits, M combination N. When attacking an enemy inflicted with poison, he does more damage. Valor up by 5. And when allies are on both sides, drive up by 5. Okay, so, yeah. Arakune himself isn't really that great, like, at all. I will leave him in B tier just because we are starved for dark units right now. At the time of this recording, May is coming out tomorrow, I believe after maintenance. And it's weird because she fights with mostly dark looking attacks. It looks like it would fit her aesthetically as well. But in BBDW story mode, you can fight May, and S is like a little training thing. And she's water there. And if she stays water, then, God, then really we don't have we don't have Dark until Hazama comes out, which again I can't wait for him either. That's who boy. I'm saving up big time for Ragnar and Hazama. Those are my boys. Those are my boys. I need my boys. But anyway, yeah, Arukune, I'm keeping in B tier just because he's Dark. That's the only reason. And Ripper I only have in my dummy account. Ripper's not that great. He does decent damage. Like, he's an attacker, or not attacker, but I think that means specialist, the symbol, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, he's a supporter. Okay. It's right there on my face. What am I talking about? Duh. So he's a frontline supporter. Character group, bounty, and chaos. I didn't even read Arakune's traits, but that's fine. So he is good at inflicting the bleed status, which, let's go over it right now. Where is it? Here we go. Debuffs. Bleed. So bleed is like poison damage, but you also can't be healed by anything. So Ripper excels at taking away the opponent's ability to heal, which is fine. He has decent damage, but it all relies on crits and for the opponent to be bleeding. His first skill, like, inflicts bleed for 2 turns to a target enemy. 63% is actually pretty decent. And Melting in Twilight, defense down by 26. So, for all enemies, that's actually pretty good. And straight Splatter Party, he gets more attack when the opponent's bleeding. Overdrive generation up by once. When an ally's behind you, he gets a little bit of crit up. And he gets Revolver up 10 when attacking Earth specifically. So that's Ripper. I've used Ripper. He's alright. I think I'll also put him in B tier. Like, bleeding is... Here's the thing, right? I think bleeding is a good status effect. But of the characters here that we have right now, not many of them can heal. And the ones that do, you may or may not even want to use unless they're a favorite. Like, who are the healers in this game? They're like Lychee, Lenoir, Trinity Glassfill, Platinum, I think, heals. That's about it. Quan has passive healing through regens, but setting that up is a little tricky. So suffice to say, we don't have much in the way of healing, so at the moment, I don't think Ripper's going to be seeing much use. I'm going to keep him at B just because Dark, but besides that, you can't really do that much with him. How far are we in? Alright, so back to the top 3. Jin, I wholeheartedly believe is top 3, if not top 1. Just because of his matchup spread. He beats... A lot of the SS characters are like Fire and Light, and Water has a positive matchup on all of them, so... That's a huge part in it. And just because of how much damage he dishes out, like... Chances are, if you don't resist Water, he's going to kill you in 1 or 2 hits. That's just how powerful he is. Okay, so next up, top 3 contender is going to be Naoto Kurogane. Let's go to his page. Drawn by Yuki Kato. God, I love Yuki Kato's work so much. Frontline attacker. He is immortal, morally good, neutral, and an older brother to Sayoterami. Alright, so Banishing Fang. Excuse me. Banishing Fang. Attack up by 15% for 3 turns. Divine Smasher's Distortion, which grants him evasion 1 time for 3 turns. So evasion as a status means that the next attack that targets you, you just automatically dodge and you come out scot-free. And then his Astral Heat, Edge of Eternity, which I like to call the discount Black Onslaught. Edge of Eternity gets him Guts. So Guts, if you're familiar with Grand Order, you know what Guts is. It basically means that if he were to die once Guts is active on him, he would come back to life, and it looks like he gained 10,000 HP back, which is almost full. What is his? That's his base stats. These go up by increase in level and parameters and other things, but suffice it to say, like, most Guts users come back with like a smidge of health, like 1% or 10% of their health. 10,000 is a lot to go through. At least right now. Like, it might not mean anything going forward, but the fact that he has Guts at all is insanity. So skills, Berserk Mauler gives him 15% up and converts whatever chamber he has to special. So the command chambers are right here. So you have Revolver, Drive, Special, Distortions, and Astrals. Whichever... You only have R, D, and S, like, in the menu, or, like, in the deck, so to speak. So if he has R or D, it automatically turns into S. And as we established already, S gets him attack up by 15%. So right off the bat, he can give himself, again, multiplicative, not adding, not addition. So that's around 22, 23%. If they stack the way I think they do. So yeah, suffice to say, he can buff himself twice from the first turn, like going just from the outset, right? And then Blood Aegis, which heals 1000 HP and gives him free evasion. So between his skills and his distortion, he already has like the means to become not only a good frontline attacker, but something of a dodge tank, which is insanity. Then his traits: Revive Low. When he's in the front row, he gets 20% up. Heat Generation. Inferno Knuckle, drive up by 15%. Damage Bump. When he's in front of someone, when someone's behind him, he gets more attack up by 5%. Purgatorial Purge. When he attacks water, attack goes up again by 5%. He does Tidal Guard, damage reduction against water by 5, and Advantage Pain makes him immune to bleeding. So that's already Ripper's greatest shtick, and it doesn't even work on Naoto at SS3. So all this in mind, right? So the thing with Naoto, he hits really, really hard like Jin. And it's easy to say that he just kicks Jin's ass. Naoto is Jin's counterpick, like, flat out. Even if Jin were to do some damage or kill him, say he got his Astral off first, that means he's just coming right back, and then the next turn, Naoto just deletes him off the face of the planet anyway. In much in the way of Jin, if the enemy doesn't resist Earth, so if they're not Wind or Dark Element, Naoto probably deletes them off the face of the planet. The only thing I think that might make Naoto a little worse is that all of his attacks are like single target. Like, he beats up one person. He doesn't have Jin's Toga where he like hits everyone. He only beats up one person at a time. But that one person is gonna get their ass beat. Alright, so 30 minutes in. Goodness gracious. I don't know if I'm gonna split this up into separate videos or like do one big long one. Depends on how I feel the format goes. So that's Naoto. Again, really, really strong. Best Earth character in the game for free. Oh, I actually had this page up for a reason. So, grimoires are, as I mentioned before, At least I think I mentioned it before. My memory is shot. Grimoires are the equivalent of Grand Order craft essences, which basically means you equip these to characters and it gives them like certain effects. Like the top two here are from the Memories Restoration event. They're both S based. So like this is the one everyone got if you just beat that event normally. The people important to me: Overdrive Generation up by 3, and when it's on S herself, she gets 1 additional point to it. So different things. I think Naoto's best grimoires are gonna be the Ragna one, so the Dimensional Interface Imaginary Number Field, which is like if you played BlazBlue, if you know like the lore, you've probably heard Ragna and or Hazama say it a million times, especially by Continued Shift. Restriction 666 released, Dimensional Interface Force Field deployed. That's what this is. And it gives their drive and special up by 25%. That's very strong. I think his other best one is the one with Unomaru from X-Blaze. Here it is: Sin Architect, Revolver, and Drive Up. So this one is actually really good on Jin as well. But Naoto's all about building heat, like non-stop heat generation. So those are the Drive Up grimoires are the ones you want to give him, or give to him rather. I'm just going through 5 and 4 stars because those are the ones you're probably going to see the most. Heat value down, Devil Cells. Fire Empress could be alright because he gets distortion really fast, so you might as well make it hit really hard. Hungry, Immortal Breaker. Okay, here we go. Legacy Weapon, drive up by 30%. So that's already more than what Unomaru and Ragna give you at a lower cost at that. So Legacy Weapon's probably Naoto's best. Probably his best grimoire. Limit Break, that's about it. Special player XP. Crit damage. Okay, Student Council does the same thing. Well, wait, actually, what is the difference? Let me see. That's why we're here. Again, big thank you for the BlazBlue Wiki for existing. That is BlazBlue.wiki. Not to be confused with the Wikia, with the WIKIA, which is something else completely different. And frankly, like, they don't have as much resources to rely on, so this is my go-to. I'll probably link to the Discord in the wiki below, in the description below. Okay, heat generation up, increase heat generation per hit. Okay. Alright, so drive up is probably better for Naoto, because he doesn't have a lot of multi-hitting moves either. Where was it? Where are the grimoires? Alright, so, assuming drive up is what I think it is. Drive effectiveness up. Got it. Alright. Okay, so knowing that, this is the best one for him. The legacy weapon. Let me just go back and make sure if I have to rescind what I just said. Drive up. So, imaginary number field. What's Unomaru's? Drive up. Okay. So, the best one is probably the Izuyoi one. Legacy weapon. So, this is probably his best one. Anyway, how far are we in now? Goodness gracious. So, that's Jin, that's Naoto. Lastly, the last contender for top 3, I believe, is going to be S. S was added to the Memories Restoration event on a very specific banner to pull from, which was like the first event, so she's a limited character, quote unquote. She's not in the permanent pool like everyone else is. Illustrated by Konami Higuchi. Love their artwork. If you've played BB Tag, they've done pretty much every single character portrait for that game, which they all look fantastic. So she's a rear attacker, which means she hits hard like Jin and Naoto, but she does it from the back line. And from my understanding, if you're in the back line, enemies are the AI at least. I don't think the PvP is gonna be true player versus player. I think it's gonna be like you, the player, versus another player's team, but controlled by the AI. So the AI is very less likely to target the rear line attackers. So we see here she's a legacy weapon, part of the Mitsurugi Agency, she's neutral, and a prime field device. There's her commands, how much hits they do. She also does she has quite a few multi-hits. All these are multi-hits, which is very good. Okay, so her cards, or ever her chambers. Special chamber, Slasher Mordred, fills heat gauge by 15, flat 15, which is decent. Type shooter is her distortion, which gives her evasion. I don't know why. I don't think she needed that, but it's always good to have. So like Naoto, with this status up, the next hit that would target her just misses flat out. And Exterminator Artorias, fill overdrive by a flat 30, which unlocks at SS+. That's her Astral Heat. Skills, enhance her Lionel, attack up by 24% for 2 turns, which is quite a lot, actually. And Recover Percival, which heals for 35% of her max HP. This is different. Like, this is important. Excuse me. Naoto's heal is a flat 1000 HP. Healing the percentage of max is almost always better in the long run. So she heals herself by 35%. So at max she heals... She has more... Wow, she has more HP than Naoto too. Jesus, I didn't even know that. I think she does anyway. So 35%? I don't have a calculator on hand right now. I don't feel like pulling it up. But that's what? 30% of 3,000? 30,000 rather? That's at least quadruple digits. I want to say like 2,500 at least? Again, at max, if my numbers are correct. And evasion. So, like Naoto, she also becomes a dodge tank. Again, not sure if she needed that per se. It's kind of broken, but you know, that's why we're here to discuss these sorts of things. Enhancer, Farian, drive up by 15%. Enhancer, Constantine, heat generation up. So she builds heat like Naoto wants to do. When placed next to an ally, her defense goes up by 10%. When placed behind an ally, healing up by 10%. Which, let me just look at this really quick. Healing up, healing skill effectiveness up. So as I understand it, I think this works on her skill, not necessarily how much healing she gets in general. If it is the latter, if it is just like all healing in general, that's just broken. Healing up by 10%. Attacking enemy in the Black Beast group, she gets a whopping up by 30%, which is goddamn. And when attacked by wind, she reduces damage by 5%. And those are orbs. These are like, very quickly, orbs are like, not equipables. You need to insert these in slots to like augment and give the character like better stats, basically. So, why I think S is so strong. Like, let me look at this again. I don't think I'm going to order anything after A, but I think I am going to put... I'm going to put S over Naoto. She has multi-hits on most of her attacks. Multi-hits are good for drive generation and overdrive through revolvers and whatnot. She's the light element, which means she has a positive matchup on fire and wind. And a lot of the SS and S characters are fire element, so that's already like really good. Going down this list, fire characters are Zwei, who's the other free guaranteed tutorial gacha character. So she beats Zwei. She beats normal Noelle. The Academy one is light, but honestly, I don't think Academy Noelle is that good. Just because she's locked at S and you can't unlock her distortion, I don't think. Or if you can, you have to grind for it, and that's a little more trouble than it's worth. So she beats Zwei, she beats Noelle. Mai's fire, she beats her. Bullet, Bang, and Quan. So she beats everyone in the fire group, and Wind, though Wind, honestly, aren't that great at attacking. Except for, is he not on this? Oh, wow, he's not. Well, he's not listed here, but Old Valkenite is a playable character. For some reason, they don't have his portrait here. But, yeah, I think only Wind Valkenite and Tau are the good wind attackers, but even then, they're not that great. They're not that strong. So suffice to say, she beats everyone in both those departments. Generation's off the charts. What I think pushes S so far up, possibly over Jin, I'm torn between these two as top. What puts her over the edge for me is that she's a backline attacker, which means she already has 2 skills to dodge everything. But then all you need is a good enough grimoire. So going back to the top. So this is already good for her overdrive generation. This is tailor-made for her. Same for a new possibility. But what you can also do is just if I can find it. There are grimoires that will purposely lower what is called the hate value. The hate value means it's basically for Westerners, it's aggro. So generally speaking, it lowers the aggro she generates, so enemies are less likely to target her. So, okay, here's the best one for that. The Intelligence Department with Makoto and Hazama. Hate value down by 70. Why this also works is because there are skills in place that will let whoever's in front of her in the front line, it generates more hate towards themselves. So here, okay, here's the best one of those. Symbol of the Duodecim with Kagura. Hate value goes up by 175, which I think is kind of funny just because, it's Kagura. If you've played BlazBlue, you kind of know who Kagura is. Very cocky, kind of the jealousy / envy of all men the world over. So I do like that his grimoire gets him hate up for that. So yeah, there's hate up. So Symbol of Duodecim, Intelligence Department. These have to be in coordination with each other. What else? Adventure for 2 for Lambda. This is the budget one, so hate value down by 60. Which is actually pretty good for cost effectiveness. Yeah, it's only 10 points down from intelligence. Alright, that's fine. So Lambda, Adventure for 2, Kagura's grimoire, Intelligence, the NOL grimoire. What is the other one? Hero of the Frozen Blade, Jin's hate up by 150. Invisible Arakune, hate value down by 60. Mercenary Squad of 1, Bullet, hate value down by 60. Naoto and Raquel, hate up by 150. So there's a lot of grimoires that can either take the heat off S specifically, or you give it to someone else and they're gonna draw aggro for you. So with all this in mind, I think that's why S
Like, God, I'm back and forth. S might actually be top 1, just because there's so many grimoires that augment her ability to not be hit, and she can heal herself, and god damn, she's so strong, so strong. Yeah, I think this is good. Like this top 3 right here, Jin, excuse me, S, Jin, and Naoto in that order. I think that's going to be the top 3 of the gacha, or excuse me, of the PvP going forward. And most of this is because water and earth, like, they lose to dark, but we don't have many dark units or many good ones.
Okay, sorry about that. We are back. I had to quickly refresh my recording setup. Like, I had to close out the application and go back into it. So, right where we left off. Lastly, so there's 2 more characters to talk about. Like, we already have our top 3 right here. Because there's not much in the way to talk about Dark, so I can knock it out of the way right now. I think Saya Terumi is A tier. So let me go to her page. Where are you? I'm blind. There you are. Saya Terumi. So, she is a S rarity. She's a flexible attacker, so she can go in the front or the back line. So, Chaos and younger sister character groups. So, Saya Terumi has, first off, multiple multi-hits. That's good. So, her special, Hasten 2 steps, drain 20% of damage done to a target enemy. So, when she has drain up, that means the attack, she heals back whatever damage she dealt up to a certain amount. So 20% of whatever damage she just dealt out. Falcon Eyes, critical damage up by 50% for 2 turns. And then Soul Eater, drain 100% damage done to the target. Her skills are Tempered Soul, gain special up by 22% for 1 turn, and Chamber Conversion to special. So right out the gate, she can start draining health if need be. And then Spirit and Blade is 1. Gain critical rate up by 50% for 3 turns at SS2. And then her trades, critical damage up by 30%, critical rate up by 10, just for both of these just by existing. When next to an ally, hate value down by 25. And when attacking Earth element, her special up, she gets special up by 10%. So you might look at Saya and be like, you know, most of her stuff, besides Drain, most of her stuff is, oh, she's all RNG, she's all critical based. I think she's good because, again, there are grimoires to augment this. For Saya specifically, let's see. So you can go one of 2 ways. You can, like, focus on the raw damage, or what I like to do, I like to be more consistent, so I focus on grimoires that up the critical rate overall. But I will be going over both. In this case, so the best grimoires for Saya Terumi, Extreme Violence, which is critical damage up by 45%. And here, like, I don't know if I explained this earlier, I might have, I might not have. Grimoires have a flat, like, numerical value increase in stats. And Azrael gets you flat 800 plus attack, which is bonkers. This is a man who believes in absolute violence. He says with his best J. Douglas impression. Which is a very poor one. I've been talking for a while. I apologize if I sound winded a little bit. So, excuse me. So for crits, there's Power of Logic, which critical rate up by 20%. What else? I'd say for 5 stars. There's more in the 4-star department. That much I know for certain. So in this case, it would be Immortal Breaker is the 4-star equivalent. Critical rate up by 15%. Killer critical damage up by 30%. Riddle Time, which is Nobody from X-Blade's Lost Memories, critical damage up by 40%. And Werewolf Valkenhayn, critical rate up by 15. So yeah, if you have these grimoires, if you have any one will do, depending on what you want. But if you have them and you give them to Saya Terumi, she, I believe, is a force to be reckoned with. And again, because she's the dark element, which is currently rare at the time of this recording, it's very valued. Like, on my dummy account, Saya Terumi hard carries, like, most of the game's content for me. And dark, so just by her traits, she beats Naoto Kurogane, which that is her older brother, so that's probably why they made it that way. Pretty good matchup spread on Jin. Jin might be able to cheese out a win if he gets a freeze off on her, but like on average she beats Jin as well. Goes even with S. S just does way more damage, so I think she beats Saya flat out. But like if you don't have a counter to S, like in the form of Naoto or Jin, then like Saya will do you okay. You might struggle a bit, but that's, you know, she's a good option, I believe. And lastly, because I know I haven't talked about her yet, and people are going to go down my throat if I don't mention her, we have to talk about Rachel Alucard. S tier, hands down, without a shadow of a doubt, the single best support unit in the entire game by a long, long shot. So she's Wind Element in the back line, has a bunch of character groups: Chaos, Deity, Immortal, Observer. She does cast True Magic, so Sorcery and Vampire. And pretty decent HP for a support character as well. This is her command chart, or like the spread rather, and her effects. So Sword Iris, chance to inflict shock for 2 turns. So I had to look this up again, and let me just pull it up. Debuffs. So Freeze, they're not the same thing in this game. Freeze guarantees unable to act, and the next damage taken is doubled. As for Shock, it just gives you a chance to not act. It's not a guarantee, so it's kind of like Pokemon in that respect. So comparing the two, Freeze is just strictly better than Shock. That's not to say Shock won't screw over the enemy at some point, but, you know, just for the sake of transparency. Tempest Dahlia, AoE, fills overdrive gauge up by a flat 10. 10 out of 100. Well, like, given everything else she does, I think it's fine. I think if you want to push her over the edge a little bit, you could have made that go up from 10 to 15 just to make it a little easier. But a 10 is fine. Flat 10 is perfectly okay. Clownage Calendula, another AoE. Inflicts defense down 75% for 3 turns to all enemies at SS1. Good lord, that is massive. Massive. She doesn't hit hard, but you're going to be feeling that afterwards. And here we are for skills. Gerber a week. I definitely didn't pronounce that right, but I have no idea how to. This skill right here is hands down, like, this is what makes Rachel so strong. Inflict attack the found. Wow, I can't speak. I've been talking for too long. Inflict attack down 12% and defense down 35% for 3 turns to all enemies. This skill is broken. 100%. Best debuffing skill in the game. That's insanity. And she gets that for free, like, right out of the pocket. Like, I've been talking like everyone's at SS3, like, they have everything available to them from the get-go, right? Or as if they did. You don't need to even get a merge on Rachel for the skill. She just has it by default. This shit is broken, dude. And the other one is Princess Tree Paralyze. Inflict shock, or chance to inflict shock, 60% success rate for 3 turns to a targeted enemy. Her traits, Overdrive Generation up by 1, which is good. Overdrive Extend up by 1. This is different. This is important. So Generation up, like, just through revolver actions and other attacks, that's what gets the overdrive gauge filled up, going, rather. Overdrive itself gets you extra commands per turn. So by default, you have like 4 moves in a turn. Overdrive at 50% pushes that to 6. And then at 100, you get 8 commands in a single turn. Overdrive Extend gets you extra commands during overdrive. So that will get you either 7 at 50% or 9 at max. That is so incredibly strong, and she gives you that by existing on the field. Holy crap. How is this okay? Rachel, also, her other traits. Wistful Casablanca, hate down by 25. Sweet Wisteria, attacking Earth. When attacking Earth, special up by 10%. And when attacked by Earth, damage reduction down. And lastly, at SS3, she gets shock immunity with Euphoria Coat. So all this said, I think it's very easy to see why Rachel is top tier. Like, I don't see her falling. Like, power creep exists in these sorts of games, right? But even then, like, say someone comes along better than S, better than Jin, better than Naoto, Rachel will always have a place on any team just because of how good her support is. And for Grimoire's sake, I think augmenting her overdrive generation is what will really push her over the edge. So a little costly, but worth it. Definitely worth it. So here we have... If you just played like the Memories Restoration event, you probably have this one. So Override Generation up by 3. By default, very good. What else? Sex from X-Blaze, Code Embryo, Deadly Sign, Overdrive Gen up by 4. Gain Art, which is Rachel herself. Overdrive Gen up by 4. Hazuma, Phenomena Intervention, Gen up 4. Or Overdrive Gen 4. So these all serve the same purpose. The difference is like what stats they give. Like, if we go down to it. Okay, so like S gives decent defense. Rachel's probably the weakest of them, stat-wise. Hazuma gives a lot more HP, a bit more attack. Defense, not that much, but, you know, different strokes for different folks. And again, 4-star, there's plenty of options down here, too. For example, Hungry, which is Tau and Platinum, eating at the restaurant. Pour one out for Ragna, his wallet. After these 2 freeloaders, his wallet's not looking so good. What else? And Oct, I believe this is Oct from X-Blaze Code Embryo. Limit Break, Overdrive Gen up by 3. And Kajun Feikat, same effect. Just different parameters. So yeah, Rachel. Overdrive Generation is definitely her thing. I think that's like her best aspect about her. Or what you want to focus on with her on your team. You could also go like the S route and just make her harder to hit with like a bunch of hate up and down per your squad. But I think Overdrive for her is where it's at. So that got it. I've definitely been over an hour, and I don't know if I have time to do the rest of these today, but I at least got the top 3 out. I definitely want to talk about these more, like going further, because I have things to say about certain characters, possibly some hot takes, but for now, this is where we're going to end it. Yeah, way, way over an hour. So, oh boy, oh boy. So again, top 3, S, Jin, and Naoto for damage. Rachel, god tier support. Like, she could be SS plus on her own, just for existing. She's that good. And for Darkness characters, because Dark is so rare right now, that's why, like, Arcanine is probably a C at the end of the day, because his poison effects aren't that great. Same for Ripper's Bleeding, but because they're dark, they are useful for beating water and earth. And Saya just does like a bunch of damage. Terami's an asshole, and that's where we're gonna leave it out. Or that's where we're gonna leave off for now. God, it's been... This video length is only gonna be like an hour or so. I've definitely been recording for longer because of mishaps. There was like a huge part of it where I was talking at length, and I found out, whoops, I accidentally hit the mute button on my mic, which kind of crushed my soul, so I had to re-record that. And then, you know, I'm going to do my best to make this as compact as possible. But again, here we are, top 3, and the dark characters for BlazBlue Alternative Dark War, currently available on mobile devices. So just put the window back up. And that will be it from me. Thank you all for watching. I've been Sonic Fiend / the Grimoire Index, and have a great day, everybody.